Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Coaches podcast, where we talk everything going on in the world of sports. And we had another miraculous event happen this weekend. Raiders won. Is that two in a row now?
2 in a row, baby. Miraculous. 2 in a row.
So we have,
Just win.
Yeah, we have special guest brother Chris to join us, and we're gonna get a 2-4 with him because he's also a Seattle guy. So obviously the UW the Huskies are crushing it this year. So West Side, Washington. So brother Chris, I'm gonna let you start. Thoughts on the Raiders game?
First of all, I appreciate the invitation and being from good brothers and good fruitful talk about sports. On the Raiders, we got 2 in a row. It's positive. It's on the road. One now I'm just worried about is our quarterback, Jimmy G. I will say he's consistent. Consistently throws at least 1 interception a week. But hey, you know what? You got to take the positives over the negatives. And right now we're in second place, and you got to keep that win rolling, you know? So I'm looking forward to this week to keep the wins going. We owe the Chicago Bears from last year. So it's time to get that win, baby. Just win.
So you guys have Chicago next week?
Yes.
Okay. So one of my clients is a hand surgeon. And when I heard that Fields got his thumb dislocated, but he's probable for, I texted him like, what are the chances of a quarterback on his throwing head dislocating his thumb and coming back and being effective that season? And she's like, if he actually dislocated it, 0 chance. So I don't know if we're going to see him, and like, depending on how bad, I mean, if it's a real dislocation, if it's a full, he won't be back because he can't grip the ball.
Can't grip a ball. And to be honest with you, I don't even know who his backup is, but it won't care because he won't be in the game. And for you fancy owners, make sure you put D Moore on your bench.
Oh God, I have him on my team too. Oh. All right, Deacon Greg, thoughts on the Raiders game?
Well, first of all, I'm just glad to have another Raider fan on the show tonight. I'm always getting double teamed. You see me every week, have to fend both these guys off, So welcome, Chris. I'm glad you're here, my Raider brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, with the Raiders, like Chris was saying, just win, baby. It isn't pretty. We haven't scored a lot of points. We barely got over our first 20-point game this week, and because of the safety with Max Crosby, he's the anchor of that defense, and as long as he can bring it, I think we'll hang around. I'm starting to like they're utilizing our tight end, Michael Mayers, the big guy out of Notre Dame. He's starting to get some action and starting to seem like he's coming into his groove. And the quarterback situation, Jimmy G, I mean, I want to send him back to the Niners.
Thank you.
I mean, the guy, he don't have any zip on his ball, and I think that's part of our problem with our running game is they don't respect our receivers taking the top off the defense. So everybody's playing down in the box. The safeties are coming down, and Jacobs is having a hard time trying to get. There's no hole there. But as you notice, when Hoyer came in there and he threw the ball deep and fast with some zip on it, and then right away, Jacobs started running the ball again. He started it started opening up for him. So I'm kind of hoping that Jimmy G is not ready this week, and even if he is, I'd like to see what Hoyer could do a little bit, And then of course we got our rookie quarterback that I'm kind of high on him also. But yeah, I'm kind of liking what the Raiders are. They're just hanging in there, That's all it takes, just to hang around and see what happens.
10 wins make it to the playoffs.
That's it. Just hang around.
That's got to feel amazing for McDaniels to beat Belichick. I mean,
2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that has to be such an amazing feeling.
Even though him throw his iPad, I love that when he threw that iPad on.
Throw it at Mac Jones's head.
Sure.
All right, Brother Bill, thoughts on the Raiders game?
Yeah, impressive win. Can't take anything away. First, Brother Chris, I have to commend you. You're just so formal and I just love the etiquette. Starting off with the thank you for being here. And contrary to what my brother Deacon Greg would say, we don't give him a bad time. We just try to call the games every week as we see them. That's all. I give the Raiders props when they win, when they use Josh Jacobs because he's the anchor for that offense and running the ball. And if you finish games, more power to you. However, enjoy the win. Enjoy next week's win against the Bears, because looking at your schedule, you said get to 10 wins. That means you got to win seven of the remaining 11 games. Then look at the schedule. There's some tough ones coming up. I mean, after the Bears, you got the Lions, the Giants, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Chiefs.
Well, that's true.
The Jets are
any given Sunday. Any given Sunday,
Zach,
somebody can win.
Zach Wilson doesn't even have to win the game. He doesn't even have to throw, because that defense is enough to make that a game. So just don't sleep on the Jets. You should beat the Vikings and the Chargers. We saw what the Chargers are. And then you got the Chiefs and the Colts, and you finish off with a nice win at home against the Broncos.
And there was another one in there. What was that schedule again? That was
after the Bears, you got the Lions, the Giants.
The Giants, okay.
And the Giants you saw gave Buffalo all they could handle.
Mm-hmm.
But they're inconsistent. I mean, Saquon Barkley is the key to their whole game, so we'll see. I don't trust their defense. But yeah, the Giants, Jets, Dolphins, and Chiefs. Those are the next four. So if you can find those 7 wins, bring them in next week. But it's I see 3, maybe 4 more. But you know what? That's why they play the games, right, Greg?
That's right.
Exactly.
Right? Any given Sunday.
Yep.
All right, Brother Bill, I'm going to stick with you. Unfortunately, we have to talk about a 49ers loss, and it's difficult because we really don't have to talk about losses very often with us, which is nice, but hard to kind of come to grips with. We got an L. Thoughts on the Niners loss in Cleveland?
The game was the game I expected against Dallas. It was a rock throw. It was remember what I said with Dallas? It was going to be a rock throwing contest, and Dallas didn't bring the rocks. Cleveland had their rocks, their bricks. They had stones. They had everything ready. They had that team ready to play. And it wasn't even, while the quarterback played well enough, third string, the key to that thing was just that defense. I mean, they just played lights out. And the Niners defensively, they got ran on in a way I didn't think Cleveland was going to be able to run the ball on in the way they did.
With a backup.
Yeah, well, but it was a line. And what I said last week was whoever controlled the line of scrimmage was going to win the game. And that's exactly what happened. And with all of that, with some of the questionable calls and everything, came down to a 41-yard field goal that, to me, is makeable. But I'll give the rookie, Moody, some grace because he's a rookie. Next time, dude, make that kick. And I fault Shanahan for not running one more play. Just try to get him closer. It seemed like he was playing to not have a negative play. And you can't play that way as far as on the road. You got to send a message to your team that we're going to do everything we can to try to win this game. And you just have to trust your team to get you a few more yards. Just every yard matters when you kick a field goal, especially on the road.
Did anything bother you about what you saw from the Niners? As far as something that could be an issue moving forward?
Well, the secondary got exposed. I mean, I've been saying this for the last, I think, 2 years. The front 7 is solid, but if you can't get a pass rush on the quarterback with just your front 4, and you don't play tight coverage or think we play zone too much, the defense, the secondary can be had. And we saw that on a couple of plays. You can't let not Amari Toomer, I almost called him. Who's their wide receiver?
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, thank you. Amari Cooper. Did he have over 100 yards? If he didn't, it seemed like it.
He had more yards than we did.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the weakness of the defense is the secondary. But they've been able to make up for that with scheme and pass rush. So teams are it's a copycat league. They just got to be ready. I'm not concerned because this is one loss. I'm most concerned about the health of the team, because you're going to need bodies in order to stack the wins up.
Yeah, I know that our secondary, we have an issue with like our corners and stuff, which makes me concerned about the Bengals game coming up, because if we can't get to Burrow, Chase is, you can't really cover him anyways, and he'll be really hard if we can't get to him. And the offense, because the Browns defense is so good, I'm not too concerned about what they were able to do throwing off Purdy and kind of throwing off the run game, because I don't know if another team can do that besides Philadelphia, which is a team I'm already worried about anyways, as far as getting to the Super Bowl. But us giving up those runs when the quarterback was not going to beat you, the quarterback's not going to beat you, and you still just giving up booty when you need to, your defense needs to hold at the end of the game. That's the thing that bothered me, because as good as their line is, you knew they had to run, and it's a backup running back. So
yeah,
I don't know what other teams can necessarily do that, but the fact that I did not expect us to get run on like that, it was like we were facing ourselves and we got busted.
yeah, we were soft in the middle. Like I said, right. Not every team can do that. Not every team has a line that can knock our front four off the ball. Also, not having Dre Greenlaw showed. It showed, because as good as Fred Warner is, Dre hustles. He chases everything down, and him not being there, you saw that on some of the running plays where his backup was just half a step late to fill in that hole.
Yeah. Brother Chris, thoughts on I don't know how much you saw. I know like half the game were at church, but the Niners Browns.
Well, since I knew I was coming on, I went ahead and did a replay. So I wanted to make sure I was competent. But one of the things I noticed, and this is big for me personally, being from Oakland, home field advantage is crucial. Cleveland came in, I mean, not just the weather, but the fans, the crowd. That is effective, and some people don't understand that. And especially in Vegas, that's something that you never know when you're going to be actually the home team. But one of the things, that's one of the things that yeah, too, in LA. One of the things that's one of the things that stood out for me. Second thing was Bill, the offensive, both lines. Whoever controls the lines runs the game. And I didn't really. This is my first time actually watching the Browns. Their defense is legit. I don't know what Deshaun Watson been doing. This team should have a better record than what they got. But the defense, Myles Garrett, I mean, that he's a man amongst boys. And there was another guy in the middle, I can't remember his name, that was just running roughshod that you haven't seen before against the 49ers. So I knew, even though the left tackle was out still, but he came back in, didn't he?
Williams,
didn't he come back? Trent Williams
he came back.
Yeah,
he was in a boot after the game. That concerns me.
Yeah, but I mean, even though he was there, still that line was amazing. And whoever is, I mean, I don't think Greg Williams is the defensive coordinator anymore, but whoever was the defensive coordinator for Cleveland ran a great
Schwartz.
Schwartz. Oh, Schwartz.
Yeah.
All right, didn't even know that. Game plan. And like you said, it's a copycat league. People are going to use that roadmap, use that map, turn to their own way, and move on. So, hey, it's the first loss for the Niners. Understand that. All they got to do is go back in the lab. You get back on your feet when you play the Vikings. My other question would be, typically when they're on the East Coast, they stay on the East Coast. Did they stay this time on the East Coast?
No, surprisingly, you're right. And surprisingly, I think they're coming back, and then they turn around and going back to Minnesota.
Yeah, see, and I think that's bad, because anytime, okay, so here's my other hat that I wear. Usually they cover all their bets when they stay on the East Coast. Just saying. Okay. Anytime, it's like when I think a year or two they stayed in Cleveland one time, or stayed in Ohio. Then they stayed somewhere else. Each time they stayed back, they covered their bet. So, little insight tip. Yeah. Also, remember, in the past 16 games, the team that they beat did not cover on their bet. They either lost, or they lost also on betting too as well.
Right.
Not saying I'm an avid gambler, but I just
it sounds. I'm looking at you now. I'm like,
attention to the numbers. That's right.
Yeah, I'm a statistics kind of guy. I taught math, so
there you go. That'll work.
All right, Dean Greg, thoughts?
Well, I think you guys are overlooking some glaring things with your offense. If in a perfect world, you guys will be healthy and everybody will be healthy all season long, and you can just go, down the road and no bumps in the road or anything. But you better be keeping an eye on McCaffrey, because if I look at him throughout his career, even at Stanford and in North Carolina when he played, he was always dinged up. He's always getting dinged up. He's just been fortunate when he came with you guys. He's been healthy for all these games. He hasn't been dinged up. But now that with that back thing going on, I don't know what that is, but that could be an issue. Just like they say, it's a copycat league, and guys are going to be zeroing in. Okay, let's get him. Let's put some hats on him and see what happens. And like we were talking earlier, Joe, when he went out of the game, it was a whole different. You guys, that offense didn't look anything like you guys been looking. Your backup Mitchell, he does have the explosiveness. He don't have. It was no comparison. And then your quarterback Purdy, that's been doing all this great stuff. I seen him missing some throws. I seen him just everything was off. Of course, Debo was out also. Yeah, you better hope you guys stay extra healthy, because if you guys don't, that don't look like the same offense to me. It does not look like the same offense without those two people in there.
I think as good as as key as McCaffrey is to the offense, with Debo, because they're able to use him in the backfield as well, losing that just made it worse. That made them that much easier to defend. Bless you. So,
thank you.
I mean, with Debo, they got Elijah Mitchell back, and if Shanahan has them ready to play, because so much of it is also just having your team ready to play, because they're on the road again after a tough loss. So you got to have them ready to play, so that, because you don't want to lose. The way I always break the season up into 4 quarters, first, second, and if you win each quarter, win three of those 4 games in each quarter, you set up pretty good, to possibly win the division. So,
yeah, I'm looking at the injury report right now. Debo Sanders, shoulder. Trent Williams, ankle. Greg Odoms, the safety, quad contusion. Christian McCaffrey, rib oblique. Dre Greenlaw, all these guys did not practice,
Right. Yep.
That's a lot.
But championship teams find a way to get it done. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, it's a long season, and there's you haven't had a bye yet, which is good. I mean, I know people get upset when they have an early bye.
Right.
But I don't know when the 49ers bye is, but
it's like week 9 or something like that.
Week 9, yeah. So after Minnesota, we got Cincinnati at home, another tough one. Then we have the bye after that.
Okay, well, that's good, because you're gonna need it.
Don't need it.
Sure. All right. Well, also, unfortunately, with the Niners loss, Dallas also actually won, and so shout out to Sister Leslie for Dallas winning the game against the most underperforming team in the history of football. But I will say, Leslie, I don't think the whistle was out of the ref's mouth at the end of the Niners game before she blew my phone up with how we suck and how does it feel? But after, with the amount that I gave her and Jasmine with the Dallas loss the week before, who am I to say? I run my mouth so bad all the time. Like the whistle, boom, boom, text. Whoosh. So I think Dallas played very, very well. I also think the Chargers are a extremely poorly coached team. So even though on paper they're incredible, that win last night for me is like Dallas looked great against a very mediocre team. But I'm willing to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
The Chargers for the last 2 years at least, they found creative ways to lose games late. When I say creative, if it's not, what's the quarterback's name? I guess face picture. Herbert throwing, what do they say? Since 2020, he's thrown 15 interceptions in the fourth quarter over 3 years in games. I mean, that's 3 seasons worth of games. That just tells you fourth quarter interceptions. That's a problem. I didn't see Eckler getting the ball enough. And so, I mean, they had their opportunities. And as good as Dallas's defense is, I just, to your point, I just felt like they weren't getting the ball in their playmakers' hands enough. If you take away Mike Williams, or whoever the receiver is, Mike Williams,
mm-hmm.
If you took him away, then it would have been over at halftime. So just the fact that they even made it a game late in the fourth quarter was a shock to me.
I was really surprised that Kellen Moore didn't dial up a better offense against a defense that he coached against for 3 seasons, 2 seasons, whatever it was. It didn't look, and maybe it's a Herbert thing. Maybe, people are, one thing I was hearing on the radio today was that Herbert came in and he's basically he came in and he's amazing right away, but he's just as good as he was when he first came in. he hasn't really progressed. So he's the dude that he's like kind of like a Andrew Luck, except Andrew Luck threw interceptions all parts of the game except for the fourth quarter. He's just a gunslinger who's kind of maintained kind of the whole way. And I thought Kellen Moore for sure was going to dial in something, and he didn't.
Do you think Herbert's another product of I got my money now, I'm just gonna be who I am?
Don't know.
I don't think, or it's either that or it's now I have all this pressure on me because I'm getting paid an insane amount of money, especially in relationship to the team. You know, he's taking up whatever, like 18-20% of the salary cap. I have to be the dude. I think it could be kind of something like that.
I think his coach don't help him out though. Like you said, they make bonehead coaching decisions, just like when they could have kicked the field goal and tied it up, and it'd have been 10-10. You know, at least you get some kind of momentum on your side or even things up. And what do? They try to go for it on fourth down and have him throw it incomplete in the end zone. Just little things like that, you know, that I think Herbert, they put too much on him. They think he's Superman, and they try to, you know, we can make mistakes and he'll make up for it. But the thing that stood out to me mostly is just that with Dak, because I said earlier that Dallas cannot win with Dak. I'm not still sure that they can win with him, but he made some impressive throws that I didn't never see that he could do. And then he also showed some athleticism running the ball, you know, and if he can keep that mentality going, especially running around in the pocket and making plays with his feet, they'll have some hope. But I didn't, you know, I'm more impressed with just the throws that I've seen him make and the decisions running the ball, getting out of the pocket and making something happen. And that's what I was impressed about.
I think Dak is under pressure. I think he hears the knocking on the door that he needs to perform, and you know, fans are starting to say it, like, you know, that contract looks like we can get out of it. Let's go ahead. And so he's probably hear that background noise, like, I got to perform if I'm going to get another contract. And so also I can't go back home 0-2 leaving California.
Right. Yeah, it was a must-win game for them. Yeah.
It was a very, you know, luckily, like I said, the Eagles lost to where they can get up a game, but they would have lost that game, you know, no ground game. They're not going to gain any ground in the standings. Right. So, I mean, the past 2 years, yes, they've lost to San Francisco in the playoffs. They're looking for a home game. You're not going to get a home game unless you get some wins. And so he had to do what he got to do. He has a great amount of receivers. And so does Herbert. I just don't understand. Like I said, I think yes, the biggest crippling line for Herbert is his coach.
Well, and that's the other thing. So Chargers had a bye week last week. They had 2 weeks to prepare for it, and that's what they came out with.
Yeah.
They threw the ball 37 times. They ran the ball 23. Come on.
Wow.
Chargers. And my whole thing last year was like, oh man, I can't wait for Sean Payton to get this job. But after seeing what Payton's doing in Denver, I'm like, I don't know if he was much better of a choice than Staley. Pretty bad in Colorado. All right, so switching to college sports.
Oh, switching. Okay.
You got it? Yeah.
Look at you.
He's ready.
Look at you.
All right, we're switching.
All right, so obviously a monster game. Basically, it's like the whoever wins this game will probably go on to win the Pac-12 championship. Oregon in Washington, huge game. Another huge game over here. USC is playing Notre Dame. USC sucks. It's awful. But Chris, I'm going to start with you. That man, thoughts on? I mean, for the whole season, and thoughts on your Huskies.
So one of the things that I want to say about the Huskies is it all started from last year. A lot of players bought in with the new coach. The new coach has come in. He brought back he brought back the old style of old players coming back on campus, coming back to practices. He's opened up the locker room for students to actually learn from the older players. And that has taken an effect to where recruiting wise, even right now, we're doing really well. We're recruiting for next year. We're very senior led team. This is actually the last year of the Pac-12 championship. So, I really appreciate the NIL money that all those other players are getting so they could stay. Because, you know, back then when I was there, a lot of people hung out at the crew house where, you know, they used to get fed steaks twice a week. Now I guess they probably hang at other people's houses now because they get all this money. But whatever it takes, you saw a genuine story just right in front of you with Penix and his family at the end of the game, where his parents gave him a hug and all the surgeries and things he's gone through. They started praying for him on the thing. I was like, man, this family about to have a brother cry. But I'm still questioned about our, when we did lose our last coach. The DBs are not the same like it used to be. We used to be DBU for a while. A little question about that. Our line and linebackers are great. They've been doing well, but our DBs are still a little shaky. The line has been the line because when Penix goes back, he's back there for like 5 minutes, sitting there, get a cup of coffee, get some donuts. I think I throw it to this guy. Oh, I think I throw it to that guy. He averages over 300 yards a game. And so I'm just hoping this week we stay focused because, after you always have that big win, there's always a letdown right
You guys
around
have
the
this
corner.
week?
We have Arizona State at UW, and it's a night game. Now, here's the thing. We're good at night at home. If it was in Arizona, this year was the first year that they won in the state of Arizona since 2016 when they beat Arizona this year. Usually when they go in and play a night game in Arizona State, we could be ranked number 1 and still lose because it's just
So
something.
you were in Arizona and won?
We already played Arizona and won this year.
Because they just whooped on Washington State.
Yeah, they did. They made.
Well,
it's the Cougars.
Yeah, but
they couged it.
They've been pretty good. Yeah, they absolutely. Yeah.
It's like the Chargers of the North.
Horrible coaching.
Just Cougars. And this year we get them at home, I think. So for the Apple Cup. But I think the buzz around Seattle is amazing. They had and Seattle has one of the loudest fan base when it comes to the stadium. If you go to UW and go to that game, a lot of people were saying, yeah, it was just as big as the Nebraska game back in 1992 when people couldn't even hear. They had so many false starts and timeouts had to be called. But Oregon and UW is always a big rivalry. It's either we win for about 10 years and then they win for 10 years, and now it's our turn to win for the next 10 years. So go Dogs.
Yeah. Deacon Greg, thoughts on the top end of the Pac-12. And don't forget Utah. We were talking before we started. Utah, and I'm sure it's to their benefit with Colorado, with USC, with UW, with Oregon. This great team is completely. I never hear about Utah ever.
Yeah, that is true. Utah is always under the radar because I don't know if it's because they're in Utah or what.
Because they're in Utah.
But yeah, they are a good team. They're solid. But I've been following Washington a lot more because I always mess with Chris at church on Sundays and stuff. And they last year they had me worried and stuff, but this year they're looking really solid. So I can't add to. He's an expert on everything you do, so I can't add anything to that. But my biggest problem is with SC. I grew up as a SC fan, and I the Trojans was my team, and not so much anymore because first of all they're not going to be in the Pac. The Pac-12 is going away, and then they brought all these players in from where they come from. Where they come from?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yeah. I brought all these players in, so to me that don't seem like the old Trojans that I used to root for. But I didn't see them just I know they ain't got a defense. They don't have a defense, but just the way the Notre Dame just ran them off the field like that, that just really shows that they're not ready for prime time. So that was my SC just they really let me down. But yeah, Washington, you got to take your hat off to Washington. I think they might be the cream of that crop.
Yeah, I can't tell what Lincoln Riley's doing because this team seems worse than his Oklahoma teams. And he should run the West Coast. Like he's at USC who's been dying for a coach since Pete left, and they got one, and it's like he comes in here and Oregon's awesome and Washington's awesome and Colorado's awesome is not the right word. Colorado's got a lot of players, and it's crazy.
Talent,
I thought USC was going to run away with it. Brother Bill, thoughts on Pac-12?
Yeah, I look forward to the Pac-12 championship game. I don't know if it's going to be at Levi Stadium this year.
It's in Las Vegas.
Oh, it's in Vegas this year? Oh,
December 1st.
Okay. All right, solves that.
Everybody loves Vegas.
Yes. Well, the only championship they're going to get there are other teams and from other sports.
Well, the Super Bowl, the Raiders can go to the Super Bowl if they want
Super
to.
Bowl's in Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They got to buy tickets. Sit in
But
those
I
section.
think the Pac-12 championship, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a rematch again between Oregon and Washington. I would not be surprised at all. The teams are that good. USC, take away Caleb Williams, they got nothing. Utah, I haven't seen enough of them really to unfortunately have an opinion, so they might be better than I realize. But I just think in terms of talent, execution, just with style of play, I can't see anyone other than Oregon or Washington. And the quarterback for the Washington, what's his name?
Penix.
Say it again.
Penix.
Penix, yeah. He's a Heisman. He's in that race, no doubt. Caleb Williams getting all the press being a USC, but Penix he's legit.
Right now, the odds for the Heisman is he's on top. Penix is on top ahead of Williams right now.
Right now, yeah.
Is Pac-12? Is it north south for the championship, or is it just top?
Yes, north south.
Okay,
North south.
So Oregon and Washington cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Oh, good point. So it'd be.
It could be Utah and Washington.
Yeah. Wait, is Utah?
Utah's in the south. It's Pac-12 South.
They're in the north. We played them a couple years ago. It was Utah versus UW.
And UW was in the.
They're in the south. I'm sorry. They're in the south.
They're in the south. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All
right. Real quick, we got a couple more minutes. Just thoughts on baseball. We have the battle for Texas, and then we have Arizona is somehow in it against Philly, but I don't think
battle of the two former Giant coaches.
Right, the two former Giants. Philly's up 10-0 right now.
Oh man,
I think Philly's gonna kind of walk in. But the big for me is for the Giant story is one thing with the two ex-coaches, and of course Baker won last year, and okay, I'm still angry about 0-2, but Bochy getting run out of San Francisco by Farhan, and then the Giants sucking now, and Bochy's I want Bochy to go to the series so bad because Farhan's like, nah, he's got to go, and he brought in this tool that was losing in Philly, and they ran him out of Philly. He's like, we're gonna bring him over here, and the storyline of the Giants sucking and Bochy going to it his first season is just it's too good for me to not be totally into this story.
Karma. I mean, right? I mean, Bochy, he's proving that players, absolutely, but he's a great manager. You don't win 3 championships in 6 years unless you can manage a team with arguably, better than good talent, but not great. Those Giants teams, they were not great teams, but they had lights out pitching and they were solid defensively. And they were able to put runs together when they needed to.
And they had chemistry, I think, and that's what the manager brings also. That chemistry that he really, brought together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta remember Texas is always a hard hitting team. They're always known for their hitters and less for their pitchers. And this year they brought some more people in. They even got in Scherzer. Max Scherzer's coming. Mm-hmm. I think he's supposed to be ready to pitch. And people now want to come to Texas. Why? Bruce Bochy.
No Texas.
That too. And it's unfortunate. They had a good thing going in San Francisco. The farm system is low. And Bochy's like, all right, well, y'all gonna let me go? Fine. I'm gonna take a year off and go down and be the manager of Texas.
I feel like what you're seeing with baseball is like there's so much analytics in baseball, and you're realizing that like the analytics, and this is something that the A's talked about when they're developing all this stuff, that it's basically like you run the analytics during the season and the playoffs is a crapshoot. But then they're kind of running the analytics in the playoffs, and all these teams that are running all this analytical data, they all came in first place. They're all the number one seed, and they all got dropped right away.
Yeah.
And all the players that have the coaches that have the camaraderie, that have like the dudes in the clubhouse, they're the ones that you're watching, advancing and stuff. And there was the manager for the Padres, the old manager for the A's, was like, so they're having this beef because they're trying to run everything analytically. Well, you're paying like $10 billion on your payroll with all these crazy players you guys signed to these like 10-year contracts. And the manager came in and he's looking at it, he's like, this data sucks. Like, I can't trust this. Like, this, you're running analytics and the analytics aren't even very good. So I don't trust the analytics. The Padres are paying more money with anybody. They didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I just think you're seeing this, and it's like, it's kind of like the Rockets when they're playing the Warriors. Everything's analytics and everything's this shot, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And then when you play dudes, when you play playoff, whatever, baseball, playoff basketball, playoff football, the dudes win. The camaraderie wins.
You gotta look at also with baseball, and being an Oakland A's fan all my life, and they suck. But you gotta look at it, like you said, all the #1 teams. Look at their payrolls. I went to go watch for Father's Day the Phillies play the A's. At that time, the Phillies was second to last, and where are they now? They're about to win again tonight.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's the turnaround. So, hey, baseball. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and so you gotta look at all those teams that sprint to 100 wins. They're at the house like us watching the game.
Yeah.
Now they collect some fat checks, but
house may be a little bigger, but
yeah, the screen wouldn't be as blurry as mine, but
Ivan Ezel is loving it because he was texting me during the first game because he's being from Philly, and he's
but you didn't hear him a peep out of him about that Eagles game, did you?
Believe it or not, we did. Yeah. I mean, we did, and came down to the wire, and he had a emoji up there with some tears, and so we were crying in our respective beverage of your choice. After our team lost. Hey.
Well, I didn't hear from him.
We're all checking with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, always trying to chime in on me about the Raiders. His wife is a Raider fan, but I didn't hear a peep out of him this week.
All right, you guys. Brother Chris, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Thank you.
Good luck with the Bears. I'm assuming you guys will get another. I'm hoping you guys get another win because you should. We'll bounce back against Minnesota because we should know Kirk Cousins really well, and that last week was not great.
This will test that DBs out there.
Yeah,
and there's no Jefferson.
There's no Jefferson, right?
And that concerns me because on paper it should be a win, but the players got to play. You got to be ready now because something. I know we got to go. They talk about on the radio. Dante Whitner, I watched post game, and he said, when you're an undefeated team, you're the opposing team's Super Bowl because they got a chance to knock you out of the banks of the unbeaten. So teams like the Niners, the Dolphins, the Eagles, teams are going to be up to play them, right? Because they're even the Chiefs, right? Because they're the current, the last year's champs. So you got to bring your A game, no matter what. Throw the record out. Got to be ready to play.
Well, it might have been sort of like your fans were, especially Joe last week when you guys beat Dallas. He thought you won the Super Bowl. Joe already got his parade chair set up and everything.
I still do. It's still ready to go.
I think your team had that big head. I think it just go to Cleveland and show up and get a dub. It don't work like that.
Yeah.
Well, we still get the ring, so we're okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, Chris.
Take care.